Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be looking at the Queen's Gambit. Now, the Queen's Gambit, as the name implies, is a gambit, but is mostly considered a safe gambit. In the Queen's Gambit, you are gambitting a pawn just to gain control of the center, to have that central advantage. Now, the Queen's Gambit starts with d4, d5, and c4. They are simply gambiting your c pawn. So in this position, black has a lot of response. Now, one of them being the taking of the c4 pawn. This is known as the Queen's Gambit accepted. Black's other move in this position is to move their e pawn. Now, in a case scenario where black moves their e pawn to e6, this is known as the Queen's Gambit declined. In a case scenario where black moves their c pawn to c6, this is known as the slap defense. Now, in a variation of the Queen's Gambit declined, where white moves their knight to c3, which is very natural, and black moves their c pawn to c5, this is known as the Tarrasch defense. It's also safe to mention that as long as you're not taking the c4 pawn like this, you are simply declining the gambit. Now, playing this slap defense, this is the Queen's Gambit declined slap defense. Playing the Tarrasch defense, this is the Queen's Gambit declined Tarrasch defense. So it's just a variation of the Queen's Gambit declined, which is our main focus for this video. Okay, so for the main focus of this video, which is the Queen's Gambit decline, when black declines your gambit, you simply move your knight to c3. Black's most natural response is to move their knight to f6. Now, whites will simply move their knight to f3. This is variation 1, the first variation I'll be showing in this video. Now, for someone who doesn't know the Queen's Gambit declines, that person will simply take your c4 pawn in order not to complicate things. Now, there's no need to worry, just move your e pawn, defending your d pawn with the intent of taking back the c4 pawn. Now, in a case scenario where black plays a random move, let's say bishop to e7, planning to castle, you simply take back the pawn with which you gambited. Now, for someone who actually knows the line of variation 1, that person will move the knight to what? To d7. Now, at this point, you bring out your dark squared bishop. Now, at this point, black takes your c4 pawn, but no need to worry. It's still the same idea. You move your e pawn, and black's most tricky move, and which is also the right move in this position, is to move their knight to d5, targeting your dark squared bishop and your knight on c3. Now, for those who like safe moves, you can simply slide back your bishop, but the top engine move at this position is to take the pawn. Yeah, take the pawn and allow black to take your bishop, doubling your pawn. But this is not really considered a weakness, because after I move like this, you can simply move your knight there. It's that pawn later acts as a supporter to your pieces. Okay, so now for the second variation of the Queen's Gambit declined classical variation, after you move your knight to c3, they move their knight to f6, you move your knight to f3. Now, in this in a case scenario where black moves their bishop to e7, preparing to castle, you simply move your e pawn to e3. Now, black continues their normal movement, which is knight to d7. Now, in a case scenario like this, you can simply move your b pawn to b3, for those of you that like defense. Now, at this point, black will simply just castle. All right, so for the next variation, variation 3, knight to c3, knight to f6, knight to f3. Black can decide to speed things up by going bishop to e7, preparing to castle quickly. You simply continue normal developing moves as white. The queen's gambit is kind of like a slow, as the queen's gambit declines, kind of like a slow paced game in the opening where both players just develop their pieces with not so much captures. Now you move your e pawn to e3. Now at this point, black castles instead of going knight to d7. Now after the castling move, you simply defend your c pawn with your b pawn. Now at this point, black will go full on the attack by moving their c pawn to c5. Alright, so for variation 4, after knight to c3, knight to f6, knight to f3, bishop to e7, well, we'll go back to the variation where instead of moving your pawn to e3 like this, you bring out your bishop. Now at this point, black will decide to forgo castling, forgo bringing out their knight to d7, and go full on the attack and ask you what you're gonna do about it. But at this point, you simply capture the pawn on c5. Now black can simply take back like this, but the best move for black in this position is to move their knight to a6, attacking the pawn on c5. Right, so for variation 5, after knight to c3, knight to f6, knight to f3, bishop to e5, we are still in a variation where you bring your bishop to f4 instead of taking your pawn to e3. If in a scenario where black castles, you continue normal developing move, now you move your pawn to e3. Now in a situation where black decides to go into like a semi-Slav variation where they move their c pawn to c6, you simply bring out your bishop, your light square bishop like this. Okay, so for the last variation of this video, which is variation 6, after knight to c3, knight to f6, knight to f3, bishop to e7, and bishop to f4, and castles, then move your e pawn up. Black decides not to go c6, decides not to go c5, but decides to bring their knight to what? d7. Yeah, this is also a variation you might face while playing someone who plays the queen's gambit decline. Alright, so we've come to the end of this video. Don't forget to do the usual: like, comment, and subscribe. You can also tell your friends that shares raptors exist, and they can hook us up on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Now for those wondering what you do in this position, you can simply move your pawn to a3. Now this is to prevent the pinning of the knight. Let's say play a random move, prevent the pinning of the knight to the king. Now after a2, black's most natural move is to take back the pawn. Now this is where the captures starts. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.